So there was once two factories right next to each other, manufacturing the same product. It's a true story. And they were both doing more or less the same. One of the factories hired a certain worker that came, added, twisted, shifted, did whatever he could, and slowly, that factory started becoming a little bit more stronger than the other. Whatever marketing he did, whatever management, he changed whatever he could in the factory, and slowly, that factory became stronger than the other one, to a point that it became so stronger that this worker came to the owner and says, listen, we are so much more stronger now that we can buy now the other guy. And the owner of the company says, no, I'm not interested in buying the competition. The guy doesn't understand. Why won't you want to buy the competition? And he continues his work, and the factory is growing better and stronger, sales are stronger, everything is becoming greater. The other factory is becoming much more weaker in the market, and he goes again to the owner of the company and says, listen, this is a good opportunity now. We can buy our competition. He's struggling, he doesn't have work, we're crushing him. No. 2 or 3 attempts like this. At some point the guy is like, you know what, I'm not being taken serious. Maybe I'll just quit. I brought this factory to such success, but I coming with such a good idea and he's not taking me serious. So maybe my place is not in this company. He goes last chance to the company owner and tells him, listen, I don't think you're taking me seriously. I'm telling you analytically, financially, now is the time to strike. So the owner of the factory says, I'll tell you why I'm not interested in buying the other factory. Because the other factory is mine. And I opened the 2 factories initially only to create some type of like a competition, but not really a competition, to create motivation in the factory. Why? Whatever brings out the best of the individual is competition. When there's an enemy, when there's jealousy, when there's the desire to be much stronger than the other, that's when you get the best out of an individual. If I will buy them, yeah, I will win the competition, but I will lose the excitement of the fight. We all have, in some type of a way, a competition. It doesn't matter where. It can be at home. 2 brothers, one is stronger than the other, one is a better student than the other, competing on the attention from the parents. It can be in the shul. One person always comes the first one, you always the one who comes last. There's always going to be a place of competition. It can be in your place of work. This worker is more diligent, is more successful, sells much more, and you brought 1 sale to this month, and this guy brings 10 sales a month. There's always going to be some type of competition in any environment that you might be, spiritual, physical, work, finance, it doesn't matter. You're always going to see your competitive doing a better move than you. And then what happens? You startle. Whoa. Where did he bring that from? And after you startle, what happens? It starts developing hate and jealousy. That's how usually it works. Today I want to talk about one of the most important messages in the Torah that affects our day-to-day life. Sometimes Hashem sends us somebody that we should be jealous of. And like I told you, it can be your job, that you were the top salesperson, suddenly somebody else comes, sells much more than you. You have a certain profession, comes your competition, sells much more than you, more popular. And it can be in any type of respect, like I told you, it can be in the spiritual world. I'm a teacher now of a community, I'm the rabbi of the community. Another rabbi comes into the city and starts taking all the attention. So sometimes a person sends a person in your life, so you will be jealous of. Now, at this point, I'm going to call it healthy jealousy. Not the jealousy that you hate and you want to do horrible things. I'm talking about healthy jealousy right now. And like I told you, it can be a better worker, a better student, a better, whatever it is, makes more money, his kids are more on the path of the Torah. It doesn't matter. Somebody that you look at and you aren't happy because that person is doing much better than you. This type of jealousy has to take us instead of a place of hate to a place of how can I become better. That's what happens when Hashem sends you this individual into your life, and we all have it, by the way. You might now ignore or say, me? I'm not a jealous person. I'm also not a jealous person. But somewhere along the line in your life, you will meet somebody, we'll call it now your competition, and it arouses jealousy. So when chas v'shalom, something like this happens, instead of taking it to a negative place that develops hate, and then the jealousy is a very negative jealousy, you need to take it to a place of how can I become a better person? And that you're going to, so to say, go out of yourself and demand from yourself more. That's really when Hashem sends you a person like this in your life. But before we start, it's always good to start the class with a question. In this week's parasha, we are introduced to, I think, one of the most exciting parashot in the Torah. Yaakov runs to Haran, then he runs to meets Rachel, he meets Leah, the whole story with Lavan, he's working for Rachel. I mean, it's a very full of excitement parasha. Half the tribes are being born. I mean, very significant parasha. And in this parasha, we find a very disturbing message that is on the surface hard to understand. We find in this parasha that the Torah blames Rachel of being envy of her sister. Vatekane Rachel ba'achota. And Rachel was envy of her sister. Then she goes to Yaakov. I don't have kids. My sister has kids. Bring me kids. Haveli banim. I want kids too. V'im ein meta anochin. If you're not going to bring me kids, I'm going to die. That's where the soap opera raises the volume in this week. Okay, I understand. Leah is the one who has the kids. She has 4 kids. She's already, shooting forward in all the 4 mothers. If we divide the 12 tribes into 4 mothers, Leah should have 3 kids. She already has 4. She's already one step ahead of all the mothers. And I understand. Natural, Rachel wants to have kids too. But to go to the extent to blame Rachel for being jealous of Leah? What good does it do to me, the reader, to see that the Torah says that Rachel was envy of her sister? Does it add anything to me? Couldn't the Torah just say, and Rachel wanted kids too? That I understand. Leah has kids, now Rachel wants kids. Why do I need to know that Rachel was jealous of Leah? Well, what does it add to me? To put Rachel down? To make her less of a person? What does this information give me? Stop for a second your reading and ask yourself, what does it give me, this information? That Rachel was jealous. Am I here to not judge Rachel? Was she right of being jealous? Was she really jealous? What's going on here? But what's questioning me the most is, why does the Torah think that this point is important for me to know? Because after all, the Torah doesn't throw information for no reason. If the Torah mentions that, must be that there's something I need to take from that. Now the thing is, why is it such of a shocking question? Because Rachel is the opposite of jealousy. Rachel is a jealous individual. I mean, we find in many cases in the Torah jealousy. We don't see with Rachel that she's jealous. On the contrary, we see that she gave the place to her sister to get married. That's jealousy. She could have married Yaakov. I mean, you know the story. I'll go through the story in a few seconds, but she's not a jealous individual. She was supposed to marry Yaakov. On the night of the wedding, she knows Rachel is going to be switched with Leah, and Rachel goes to Leah and gives her the secret code that Yaakov won't think anything. And then you're coming and telling me she's jealous of Leah? She doesn't look like the type of jealous individual. It seems that throughout her life, she's the one all the time who's giving in. So why is the Torah coming and telling me, "V'takaneh Rachel ba'achota," and Rachel was jealous of her sister? When we see something like this, that's where you need to stop. That's where you need to ask a question, and that's where you need to understand what is the Torah trying to tell me. So let's go through quickly the story that we have it fresh in our mind. We're going to call this story the success story of Leah. After all, Yaakov goes down to Haran and he sees Rachel. He falls in love with her. He goes to Lavan. He says, "I want to marry your daughter Rachel." Lavan says, "No problem. 7 years work and you'll get Rachel." Everything on the surface looks fine. But suddenly, everything changes. 7 years passes. Yaakov is waiting to go into the chuppah and marry Rachel, and Lavan switches Rachel with Leah. Now the problem is that for 7 years, while Rachel is waiting for her wedding day, Leah is kind of waiting for the day that she's going to meet Esav. Because it was known. There are two brothers, Yaakov and Esav, who are twins. Some say that Rachel and Leah were also twins. Just that Leah was a little bit older in a few minutes. So it was known to everybody that if Yaakov is going to marry Rachel, the young one goes to the young one, then Esav is going to marry Leah. So 7 years Rachel is waiting for her wedding day, jumping up and down in the field, and fantasizing of her coming husband. And Leah, on the other hand, is saying, okay, so she's getting the good one. I have to now one day meet Esav. And in the meantime, she opens the newspaper and all she sees, Esav was arrested for fraud. Esav was arrested for drug trafficking. Esav was arrested for rape, like a P. Diddy, whatever he was. So she's saying, this is what I'm going to marry now? The guy on the news? So one girl is waiting for her beautiful wedding day. Leah is waiting for, now I'm going to meet this hoodlum. And finally, 7 years come, her father says, don't worry, Leah. You're not marrying Esav. You're marrying Yaakov. You're the first one. And he switches her in the wedding. It's it says that Lavan on purpose did the wedding on Friday night, and on purpose somehow the lights went down, and he did whatever he needed to do, and whoop, he switches Leah with Rachel. Which of course there's a lot of questions about that. We're not going to go into the commentary about how can such a thing happen, but I can see such a thing happen. Dim light, two sisters, possibly twins, kind of look the same. Yaakov is not the type that took Rachel out every Friday night on a date. They saw each other, they fell in love, he went to work, she went to wait. He didn't quite remember her. They didn't meet for 7 years, they didn't live somewhere together. It's not like what we think, so he barely even remember how she looks. Very easy to switch in the wedding. And here she was covered. Dim light, Yaakov is excited, Yaakov is a chassid, he's not thinking right now of the beauty of his wife. He's in there. Okay, so right on this point already, the luck of Leah changes. 7 years, she's doomed to marry El Capone, and suddenly she gets Yaakov, everything switches in her life, suddenly she's on the top. The fate has changed. And right after, boom, she gives birth to 4 kids. And the important ones, not that Chas v'Shalom, the Torah says these are less important. But if you're looking who came out from the first 4, I mean, all the kings, Kohanim, Leviim, all the major figures in our history came from the first 4 tribes. So Leah, not only that she has 4 children right on the spot, the elite of them. And Rachel, nothing. Now the Torah, of course, goes very fast, but if Leah had 4 kids, that's minimum 5 years. Which means that 5 years that she's having babies, realistically, could be more. But realistically, we're talking about 5 years, and Rachel is nothing. Every Shabbat meal, Leah's coming with a bunch of kids, and Rachel is sitting there, no, Shalom Aleichem, no. And she sees her sister with, a bunch of kids around her. And with her, nothing. And before that, before she even blinks, boom, Leah brings another 2. She's already have half of all the minyan of the Shvatim. So what is left for Rachel? So already Leah, without even blinking, passed Rachel with, how they say, with flying colors. And finally she gets her own kids, Rachel, and then she dies. She doesn't even raise her own kids. Leah raises Binyamin and Yosef. That's the story in the short version. And when we're looking at this story, everything is like thrown in the face of Rachel. And really the topic or the theme of Parashat Vayetze is the power of prayer and the power to change your mazal. If you're looking at the theme in general of the entire parasha, that if you want to derive something, the power of prayer. Because we see Rachel is going to Yaakov, please, you pray, I don't have mitzvot, you have mitzvot, you pray for me. And sure enough, she gets pregnant. But not only that, how prayer can change your entire life. That's really the theme of the parasha. But now we're asking a question, how does Rachel act when she sees that Leah kind of passes her? She marries before her, she has kids before her, everything is before her. How does she react? Okay. It says, "Vater Rachel ki lo yalda leYaakov v'tekane Rachel ba'achota." That's what the pasuk says in our parasha, chapter 30, verse 1. And Rachel saw that she had not borne any children from Yaakov, and Rachel envied her sister. That's what the Torah tells me. Now, why the Torah adds the concept that Rachel was envy of her sister? Is it really important? Can you judge? Let's say she was jealous. Can you judge her? No, I wouldn't judge her. She was supposed to marry Yaakov. She was switched. She backed up. Now Leah is getting everything. I can say, I understand that she's jealous. But why does the Torah think it's important for me to know that she's jealous? Not only that, the verse continues, give me children, if not, I am dead. Now she's already threatening Yaakov, give me children, if not, I am dead. I am a nothing without a child. Let me ask you something else. If her sister wouldn't have 6 kids, if Leah wouldn't have 6 kids, wouldn't she want to be a mother? The answer, of course she would want to be a mother. So why is that making her jealous of Leah? You understand the simple question, but the Torah is not clear. Let's say Leah wouldn't have kids. Leah, let's say, would marry Esav. And Rachel doesn't have kids. She would still want to have kids. She would still go to Yaakov and say, I want kids. So what is that got to do with jealousy even? Anyways, she would want to have kids. It's not that she's jealous of her sister. She's upset she doesn't have kids. Let the Torah tell me. And Rachel was upset she didn't have kids. That's it. The same thing with Rivka last parasha. She was upset she didn't have kids. And she turns to Yitzchak, please, you pray. I'm a daughter of a wicked individual. You're a son of a tzaddik, and you are a tzaddik. So why does the Torah, instead of telling me, and Rachel really wanted to have a child, why does it tell me she couldn't have children, but she was jealous of her sister? She would want a child anyways. And the word vatekaneh is one of the most hardest words in the Torah. Vatekaneh. You know what it means? I mean, it means in Hebrew, and she was jealous and she had envy. But the connotation of the word is very bad, very negative word. It testifies on some type of anger. Vatekaneh Rachel. It doesn't come in a nice way. It's not coming in a positive way. It looks like she was very vulnerable. Maybe misjustice going on here. I mean, after all, where else when you see in the Torah the same concept, it's not coming in a nice way. Next week we're going to read the same thing, that the Shvatim, the tribes, were envy of Yosef. Vayekanu bo. And they were jealous of him, which means they were angry. How he's getting treated better than them. It brought anger to them, misjustice, vulnerability. Look in the entire Torah, every time you'll see the word vayekaneh, vatekaneh, that's not coming in a positive way, it's coming in a very negative way. Something is going to happen right after that. I'm jealous. Same thing now we're going to see with the Shvatim, with the tribes, that they jealous with Yosef, or what we saw with Cain and Hevel, or every time we see this jealousy, something bad happens. Like we're going to see Yotechef with Shechem and Hamor, they go kill everybody. That's jealousy. What are you touching our sister? That Hamor goes on Dinah. You see that from this jealousy comes rage or something bad. So why does the Torah enter jealousy into this concept? Why do I need to know that Rachel was jealous? And what does it add to me? Does it add anything to me? Does it make me like Rachel more? Does it make me like her less? Do I understand what the message is better now because Rachel was envy? Luckily for Rachel, all the commentary come to the aid of Rachel. Okay? That's lucky for all the commentary says she wasn't really jealous. She was maybe jealous, but she didn't want evil. Rashi says, no, that's a good jealousy. Kin'a b'maaseh tovim. She was jealous of her good deeds. She wasn't jealous of her that she married first and she got Yaakov. Bear in mind that when Leah gets Yaakov, Rachel doesn't know that in 7 years she'll marry him. It didn't say anywhere, and she didn't know he's going to marry her. In her mind, she lost her love of her life. So Rashi says, no. When the Torah says Rachel was jealous of Leah, she was jealous of her good deeds. She wanted to learn from her. She wanted to be like her. It's a good jealousy. Rachel understood that Leah did something that changed her luck. Maybe she gives donations quietly, what's called matan baseter. Just the other day, somebody asked me something about charity, and I don't remember now the whole discussion, but the concept was, it was my daughter who asked me. It doesn't matter all the details, but I told her it's considered a much greater mitzvah when you give charity with nobody knows that you gave the charity. Nobody needs to, you don't have to make a whole fuss out of it. Have your name all over the wall. It's a much greater charity when you do it quietly. You give the person, and if the person doesn't even know who gave it to him, even better. Rachel says, maybe Leah is giving money quietly, nobody knows. She has some type of mitzvah. She's doing something that she changed her mazal completely. maybe some good act, some good deed, something is she's doing to change her mazal. That's what Rachel figured out. Because Rachel was here, suddenly she goes down, Leah goes up, all the way up. So she comes to Yaakov and she asks him, can you pray? Can you pray? You're a tzaddik. She understood that even with prayer you can change your luck. Now again, luck in English is not the right term. In Hebrew is mazal. Okay? Now I know if you translate the word mazal, it's luck. But mazal is not really your luck. Mazal would be more your fate, your destiny. Rachel understands that that can be changed, especially with prayer. She goes to Yaakov and tells him, pray. You're tzaddik. You have power in your prayer. Prayer that my luck should be also good. And we also know that prayer can do that. I mean, you're familiar with the story. I told you that story a lot of times. I'll repeat it very quickly just for the sake of the example. This story is about the daughter of Rabbi Akiva. Rachel also, her name was Rachel. This story can be found in the Talmud, Tractate Shabbat, page 100, Kuf Nun Vav, 156a. And the story says that Rabbi Akiva had a daughter. And when she was born, the stargazers, or however you want to call them, told him, unfortunately, we see that this girl doesn't have good luck, good mazal, and she will die on her day of a wedding. So of course, all her life, Rabbi Akiva was not waiting for the day of the wedding, but sure enough, the day of the wedding came, and the next day, he was like, okay, now what's going to happen? I'm going to open a call in the morning to see what's going on, what's going to be the fate. And sure enough, she calls him in the morning and tells him, you won't believe. At night, I was coming to the tent or to the cave or wherever they were, her and her new husband, and she had like all her hair in like some ponytail or something, and she had like a pin holding the hair. She took out the pin so all the hair can go down and, like stick it in one of the cracks in the wall. And in the morning, she pulls the pin out and there was a snake there that came to bite her and she killed the snake. So Rabbi Akiva saw what's going on and he says, what did you do? She's like, what do you mean, what did I do? He says, you must have done something. You did some type of act that changed the fate. And what happened? She acknowledged that while the wedding was going on, and this is like a big wedding, Rabbi Akiva, that's the Rebbe of the generation. Can you imagine what type of a wedding it was? Thousands of people were there. Needless to say how wealthy he was a huge wedding. So as the wedding is going on, his daughter Rachel sees a homeless person walking in, and he barely has a place to sit and doesn't have a plate to eat. She takes her own food and she gives it to this poor person. So Rabbi Akiva says on this act, "V'tzedakah tatzil mimavet." Okay, this is a verse from the book of Mishlei, Proverbs. Proverbs 10, verse 2. "V'tzedakah tatzil mimavet." That charity will save from death. So that's the famous story with Rabbi Akiva, and he understood that a certain act changes your fate. That means that a good act that I do can change my fate, can change my mazal. Chas v'shalom, I can go into death or into any situation, and a certain act that I do changes it. So really, if you want to look at it the right way, Rachel is looking at the success of her sister and understands from that she needs to do some good act here. That's really what Rachel understands. Then she goes to her husband and tells him, can you pray for me? Pray for me to have kids. This still doesn't explain to us why the Torah is using in such a not nice way a negative word, and she was envy of her sister. Okay, so Rachel sees the success of Leah and says something needs to be done here. Or up until now, everything makes sense. But why is the Torah now adding that she was envy of her sister? It still doesn't explain to me. Now, if Rachel, if you want to look at it in an objective way, if Rachel has some type of merit, is the fact that she completely killed jealousy. If we're looking to some merit in Rachel. And what is that merit? Merit that she actually is the one who pushed away jealousy away. And In that merit, by the way, we have the zchut, the merit, to come back to Eretz Israel and to build Bet HaMikdash. That's our merit. The fact that Rachel gave up her place in the wedding with Leah. Rachel knew that they're going to switch. She could have protested. She could have come to Yaakov and say, whoa, they're planning on switching. Don't marry her. She could have done whatever she wants, really. But she knew what was planned. She backed up. She gave Leah the secret code. And she gives Leah the blessing to marry the love of her life after 7 years of waiting. So if Rachel has some merit on her credit, is the fact that she gave up the position of marrying Yaakov and she gave it to Leah. And because of this merit, by the way, we, as the nation of Israel, have the merit to come back to Eretz Israel and to build Bet HaMikdash. I'll explain. It says in the Talmud, in Tractate Baba Batra, that when Yaakov finished the negotiation with Lavan about the marrying Rachel, it wasn't like that he came in on a white horse, said, I'm the son of Rivka and I want to marry this girl. Lavan, was questioning, how's your portfolio? How much money do you have? Where are you invested? Are you in crypto? Where do you have your money from? What's your vision? What's your horizon? And came, of course, negotiation. You think Lavan will just tell him, okay, you can marry my daughter? The fact that he tells him go and work for 7 years, that's already chutzpah. But nevertheless, the second that negotiation was finalized and Lavan and Yaakov shake their hands, and Yaakov thinks, okay, I'm going to now work for this guy, and in 7 years I'm going to marry his daughter Rachel. The next second, Rachel tells him, my father's a crook. You can't take his word is worthless. You're shaking now a hand with a crook. Doesn't matter what paper he gave you, you can wipe your tuchus with it. My father's a thief, he's a crook, he's a liar. Anything that he promised you won't happen. Yaakov, being such an innocent individual, and the Torah says, Yaakov ish tam yoshev ohalim, an innocent person, a wholesome person, sits and learns Torah all day long, doesn't even know what's going on in the real world. He tells her, why would he lie to me? What's wrong with him? Why would he lie to me? Why are you telling me your father's a liar? So Rachel answers, because I have an older sister. That's why. You really think he's going to give you to me when I have an older sister? He's a very traditional individual. First he'll give the older sister to you. He's cheating you. He's tricking you. His name was Lavan HaArami. It's the same letters of Ramai. Ramai means a cheat, a con artist, a charlatan. Everything is with him conning. Why wouldn't he con you here? So Yaakov says, so what do you think we should do? So, because they're not going to see each other. So Yaakov says, I'll give you a code word. And the code word will be Chana. Chana is the acronym of Chala, Nida, Hadlakat Haner. The 3 mitzvot that the woman needs to be familiar with before she comes into marriage. Right? Chala, she has to do dough for the Chala on Shabbat. Nida is the family purity. And Hadlakat Haner is lighting the candle. That's the acronym of the 3 mitzvot that the woman has to be prepared for. Nevertheless, that's when she comes to a wedding, that's what she prepares for. That will be the code. It sounds normal. Yaakov says, this is the code. When you hear the code, then everything will work fine. Comes the wedding of Leah. Comes the wedding of Rachel. Lavan switches the wedding dress from Rachel to Leah. Everything is switched. Rachel approaches Leah and she says, by the way, when the Khatan comes to you, you have to tell him Chana. Rachel didn't even tell Leah that she's switching. That's even something that most people don't take into consideration. Rachel didn't tell Leah, I'm giving you the place to marry. The Leah didn't see the wedding gown getting off Rachel and putting on her. The wedding gown was just waiting on the bed. Rachel pretended like just a wedding day. And when she comes and gives you the code, she doesn't tell her, by the way, it's the code between me and Yaakov. No, it's something general that a bride has to tell the groom right after the wedding. Rachel doesn't even tell Leah, by the way, I'm doing you a favor here, that you won't get humiliated, that you're not going to get now shamed in front of everybody. What's harsh is that later on we read in the Torah that after Leah has 4 kids, one day Yehuda comes back from the field with these flowers called dudaim. And why with these flowers? Because they're very good for getting pregnant, for fertility. So Rachel comes and asks these flowers from Leah, do you mind giving me the flowers that your son brought? Can I have them? It's good for me to get pregnant. Leah lashes out at Rachel and tell her, not only that you almost took my husband, you want to take also the flowers that my son gave me? Rachel gets it all the way. And still, Leah doesn't know that Rachel gave in the code and allowed it to happen. So the zchut of Rachel of giving over the place for Leah and not saying anything, that is the merit that Rachel told Hashem not to be jealous of his nation when they're going to idolatry. You know, there's a long story in the Midrash Echa, what we read on Tisha B'Av. I mean, we read the Megillah of Echa, but the Midrash on this Megillah explains that right after the destruction of the first temple, they all, left Yerushalayim. Can you imagine of the scene? They have the temple standing there for 410 years, and suddenly the temple is destroyed, the whole Yerushalayim is being destroyed, and they're all being led out of Yerushalayim into exile. Can you imagine how that looks? Somehow they went through out of Yerushalayim, probably from the direction that they went through Ephrata and next to the grave of Rachel. So all the leaders of the generations, whatever prophet we had, whatever leaders, Kohanim, they probably went through the kever of Rachel and started crying, praying for Rachel. The Midrash says that at the time Bet HaMikdash is being burnt, the nation of Israel is leaving Yerushalayim, whoever went to kever Rachel, to the grave of Rachel to pray, the Midrash says that Avraham Avinu comes to Hashem and says, listen, after 100 years of waiting for a child, I took a child in your command and I was ready to sacrifice him. Isn't this enough of a merit for you to forgive them? Hashem says no. Yitzchak comes to Hashem and says, I was the sacrifice. I was 37 years old. I wasn't a little kid. I, by choice, in your command, went and sat on the altar. Isn't this enough of a merit? Hashem says, no, it's not enough of a merit. That nation went against me. They went for false idols. Then they're going to be punished. The Midrash says that one after the other, great tzaddikim came to Hashem. Nobody was able to convince Hashem that they have enough of a merit to forgive the nation of Israel. Till Rachel came. And Rachel says, I wasn't jealous of my sister. I gave her the place to marry Yaakov. And you are jealous of this nation that they went to idolatry? Why? And then Hashem answers back, famous verse from the book of Yirmiyahu, chapter 31, verse 15, Men'i kolech mi bechi ve'enayich mi dima, yesh sachar lefulatech v'shavu banim legvulam. Translation, stop your voice from crying. There's a reward to your action, and the nation will come back to their border. And sure enough, 70 years later, after the punishment, they came back. But it was the merit of Rachel that gave in to and gave Leah that Hashem says, for that I will forgive. The Akedah for Avraham and Yitzchak, Hashem says, I'm not going to forgive. Other situations, not going to forgive. But when Rachel came and told him, Hashem, you're jealous of this nation? I wasn't jealous of my sister. So really, it's Rachel's merit that we as a nation have the merit to come back to Eretz Israel. Doesn't matter if it was 2,500 years ago or now. But up until today, what Rachel did is standing to us as a merit not only to return to Israel, also to build Beit HaMikdash. So to take from Rachel the best attribute she has and to, flip it on her, it's almost like saying Moshe was arrogant or Abraham was evil. How you say on Rachel she was jealous? She was the complete opposite. How come the Torah comes and takes like the strongest attribute of Rachel and say, and Rachel was jealous of her sister? That doesn't make sense. When we see that Rachel was the epiphany of giving in and no jealousy whatsoever. In order to understand this whole concept, we have to mention another situation in our history, and that will help us understand. There is a eulogy in the books of the prophets, specifically in the book of Shmuel Bet, chapter 1, verse 26. Okay, Shmuel Bet is Shmuel number 2. And this eulogy is David, King David, saying to Yonatan to say goodbye to him. And he says a very weird sentence that, by the way, up until today, a lot of people twist this sentence in a very distorted way. David HaMelech says to Yonatan, Tsar li alecha achi Yonatan, halo nifleta, ahavatcha li me'ahavat nashim. Translation, I am distressed for you, my brother. You were very pleasant to me. Your love was more wonderful to me than the love of women. And needless to say that many people like to distort it. David and Yonatan were gay. Chas v'shalom to say such a thing. But when you read it in English, that's how it sounds. But nevertheless, David HaMelech, King David, is saying goodbye to his soul brother, to his best friend, by saying to him, your love to me was so great, greater than love of women. So has to be some type of hint here. I mean, listen, let's completely negate the option of them being gay. Okay? That's not even an option for the crooked mind of some people. But still, what is David HaMelech telling me here? What is the prophet telling me? What is the message in such of a claim? So there's a wonderful explanation from a great Mekubal. I've mentioned his name a few times, and we actually learned from some of his teachings. His name is the Rama from Pano, Rabbi Menachem Azariah, lived about 500 years ago, a little bit less than 500 years ago. Great Mekubal, amazing commentary on the Torah. And he says that what David HaMelech means, that your giving in, your vitur, is greater than what your grandmother did to my grandmother. Okay, let's remember that Yonatan is the great-great-grandson of Rachel, and David is the great-grandson of Leah. So David tells Yonatan, the act that you did about giving in, levater, to give up, not give up, give in, is greater than what your grandmother did to my grandmother. See, this is where words in English never work well, but in Hebrew it says, Choser hakin'ah shelcha, the fact that you didn't have any jealousy, Mr. Yonatan, is much, much greater than what Rachel did to Leah. Because Rachel and Leah are sisters. You and me are strangers. We're just friends. That's why זה יותר מופלא מאהבת נשים. It's greater than the love of women. Not me loving women, the love of the two women, of these two mothers, these two sisters. Now what's the story? Let's understand the story. Shaul understands that he lost his leadership, right? Shmuel comes to him and tells him, 3 strikes, you're out. Now comes the big question. Who's going to take the kingship? His son, Yonatan, or that Shmegeg, Ben Ishai, David? Okay. Shaul understands that he needs to somehow move away the competition. Because if David is there as a competition, he might take the crown. And then the whole kingship is moving from one tribe to another, from the tribe of Binyamin to the tribe of Yehuda. And his legacies is all going to be destroyed. Okay, and if he somehow removes the obstacle, which is King David to be, then Yonatan can be the king. Okay. David agrees with Yonatan that Yonatan should snoop around. What is his father is planning? After all, don't forget, that's his father-in-law. For David, Shaul is the father-in-law. And he tells Yonatan, you go and snoop around. But what does David wants to do? Okay, so the next day is the big feast of Rosh Chodesh. Yonatan goes to the feast. David is not there. Shaul says to Yonatan, where's your friend? He says, what am I, his secretary? He's not here. He didn't show up. Find out why didn't he show up to the Rosh Chodesh meal? So he tells him he went to his family. He went to sacrifice, to give a sacrifice in his own hometown. It doesn't say I have to be with you. Okay. Next day, second day meal, David HaMelech doesn't show up. Same thing, Shaul asks Yonatan. Yonatan tells him, I don't know, he went home. Shaul loses his temper that David didn't come to the meal. And he pulls already out his sword, and he already, he's coming to kill his own son. He's coming to kill Yonatan. Okay. And it says to Yonatan, you don't understand that it's either you or him. Okay? So either he's out and you're the king, or you're not the king. What does Yonatan do? He goes and he saves King David. He goes to the field. They had a deal with them how to shoot the arrows. And Yonatan comes to David and tells him, don't come home. He's going to kill you. He's planning on killing you to get you out of the equation. Yonatan saves David's life, and of course, what is the result? The crown goes to David's head, and not to Yonatan. So really, Yonatan gives over to David, you be the king, I give in. Right? David HaMelech says, your giving in, your lack of jealousy is greater than Rachel and Leah. What you did is much, much greater than the act of Rachel and Leah. That's the explanation of the Ramah from Pano, that David HaMelech says your love was greater than women. It's not that David loved him more than he loves women. Rather, he says, your love to me, you did an act that is much greater than the love of these two women. That Rachel she was in such a high level, she was like, you take the man to be the husband. Saying, in other words, that our entire history of our nation is leaning on the fact that Rachel did not jealous her sister. And then the Torah comes and tells me that Rachel was jealous of her sister. What? That doesn't make even sense. And if we want to add more to the greatness of Rachel, in Parashat Vayetze, there's a big question. How could it be that Rachel and that Yaakov is marrying two sisters? We discussed that already numerous times. Yaakov marries two sisters? We're not allowed to marry two sisters according to the Torah. Okay, I'm not going to get into all the explanations now. I did that in one of the previous years. But the on the surface explanation, it was before Matan Torah. It was before the giving of the Torah, before we had any restrictions. They didn't have any restrictions, the fathers. Only after we got the Torah came the prohibition. So there you go. So he married a sister. Besides, I have explained, if you remember in one of the classes, that the prohibition was if you live in Israel. If you live out of Israel, you don't have this prohibition. So Yaakov lived out of Eretz Israel. And the second that he came into Eretz Israel, Rachel died. He couldn't have two sisters in Eretz Israel. And there's a lot of other explanations how he was able to do it. But nevertheless, the reason why Yaakov was able to do such a thing, because it says in the Torah, don't marry two sisters because the jealousy will be too great and then it will cause one of them to be jealous of the other and to hate the other. That's what the Torah says. Yaakov says, with these two sisters? That's not happening. I don't see such hate and jealousy between these two. It will never happen with these two sisters. Rachel gave the secret code to Leah. I can't even imagine hate and jealousy between these two. In these two, in Hebrew it says, Ba'achayot ele Torah lo dibra. The Torah was not talking about these two sisters, talking about other sisters. So again, we are set with the question. We have all the signs that Rachel was the complete opposite of a jealous individual. Now, why is the Torah entering this fact that she was jealous, and what good does it do to me? What do I take from that? After all this, what we just explained, what was left from Rachel? The fact that the Torah said that Rachel was envy of her sister. And now if we go back to the Megillah of Echa, what we read before, how come the Akedah, the sacrifice of Yitzchak, didn't impress Hashem, but that impressed Hashem? Do you have some common sense, some normal, reasonable explanation? The Akedah, that up until today, the sacrifice, we're using it for almost anything to use as our merit, suddenly Hashem doesn't think it's a merit. I'll explain to you why. Of course, it's not my explanation. I just read and give it over. The explanation why Hashem wasn't impressed by the Akedah, the sacrifice of Yitzchak, to use that as a merit, and the fact that Rachel let go, he used that as a merit, because the Akedah is a one-time thing. Let's say Hashem would tell Avraham, continue. Then Avraham would slaughter Yitzchak. It would be a one-time thing and an hell, right? Rachel saw Leah every day. Every Shabbat meal, she's sitting there with her husband and kids. Every Chanukah, every Purim. Well, they didn't have Chanukah and Purim. Every holiday, every family gathering, every bar mitzvah, Rachel sees Leah every day. The challenge is daily. The Akedah, if Hashem would allow Abraham to sacrifice Yitzchak, it would be a one-time event in history. So Hashem says, okay, one time. Here, for the rest of Rachel's life, she has to see it. Every day, she sees Leah walking hand with Yaakov and says, that was supposed to be me. That's much, much bigger than once in a lifetime. That's every day. So Hashem gets much more impressed in Rachel than in Avraham Avinu. So after all this, and everything is explained clearly, what is the Torah trying to tell me? I just explained to you for the last hour how there's no way Rachel was jealous. And the entire image of Rachel is the opposite of jealousy. And the Torah finds it important to tell me, "Vatekane Rachel be'achota," and Rachel was jealous of her sister. Must be a very important message between the lines that I need to take from that. When I see a person that is very successful, and especially much more successful than me, but in important things, then you have to let that jealousy bubble. I'll say it again. When a person is much more successful than me, but in important things, he comes before me to pray in the minyan, He's much more diligent in his avodat Hashem. When it comes to doing mitzvot, he's 2 steps forward than me. When it comes to learning the Torah, 4 steps forward than me. Seems he's having the whole connection with Hashem much better than me. And how he approaches other people with a much better kindness than me, much greater patience than me. I can look at another person and say, this person is much better than me. He's what I want to be. Then, naturally, I'm jealous of this person. How come he does it? How is he so successful? Why does he have more success in everything that he does? Totally natural that I feel now inferior to this individual. And needless to say, I start to have jealousy. I want to be successful like him. That's the point when you need to let the jealousy bubble. Why? Our sages explain, this is explained in Talmud, in Baba Batra, page 22a, Kin'at sofrim tarbe chokhmah. When you are jealous of somebody who's a scholar, it will gain you a lot of wisdom. Why? Because you want to be now successful like that big rabbi now, so it will cause you to learn more, to wake up earlier, to be more diligent in your avodat Hashem, to be more appreciative to your work, it causes you to be a much better individual. Why? Because you're jealous of him. But I'm talking about positive jealousy of good, important things. Not jealous because his wife is more attractive than mine. That's stupid jealousy. I'm talking about when I'm going on my path of avodat Hashem. Let's now take a pause and focus just on you. Don't think of anybody else right now. Think of you. You are targeted to work and serve to Hashem, right? If you're sitting in this room right now, or you're watching on the screen right now, you are targeted on Hashem. Your mind is not elsewhere. If your mind is elsewhere, you're not listening to this class. Which means that you're already listening to this class, we have a common denominator. You already threw your arrow to the target. I want to be devoted to Hashem. That's the common denominator we all have. If you don't have that, then there's a big problem in your life. Hashem is number one in everything. I have a lot of goals. I have a lot of aspirations. I have a lot of dreams. I have a lot of marks on my timeline that I need to do, conquer. I have a lot of plans for myself. But after everything, and just for you to understand what I'm talking about, to be a much greater servant to Hashem, to learn much more Torah, to be a much better example to my kids and to raise them to Torah, to love Hashem, to be good-hearted, God-fearing individuals. I have different goals in my life. Spreading Torah in such a way. I have in Hebrew it's called matarot, my targets. But all together, the ultimate target is constantly focusing on Hashem. The Yetzer Hara knows how to move you away from the ultimate target, which is Hashem, blinding you with some money success, blinding you with a business success, blinding you with some type of success that you'll get, off of the real target. The real target is to be focused on Hashem. For me and for every other individual. If that's not your target, you're doing it wrong. Your life is not walking on the right path. The target that you need to be focused on is only Hashem. What does Hashem want me to do? That's the question that I ask myself 1,000 times a day. What does Hashem want me to do in this situation? That's the question I ask every few seconds. I meet a situation, boom, the screen goes down. What does Hashem want me to do here? Does He want me to be firm? Does He want me to be kind? Does He want me to let go? Does He want me to fight? What does He want me to do? That's the number one question I ask myself every day, thousands and thousands of times. And I might be exaggerating with thousands, but I ask myself in any situation. So it's literally hundreds of times a day that I have this question that is triggered in my mind. What does Hashem want me to do right now? I can be very firm. I can answer harsh. I can smile and not say anything. Does He want me to fight in this situation? Does He want me to put my foot down? Does He want me... Whatever. And this can be with reacting to my child asking for something. This can be a stranger in the street. This can be a situation that is happening. Why? Because constantly I'm targeted on Hashem. Every second of my life is I need to do what Hashem wants me to do. And how many times do I have a situation? Does Hashem want me now to leave everything and go to my seder and pray now it's time to pray mincha? Or do I need to push this away and to deal with this? I mean, constantly I have this yo-yo in my mind. Of course, in a very healthy way, not in a sick OCD way. But why? Because I want to please the master of the universe. I want to do exactly what Hashem wants me to do at this given moment. And Hashem gives you the tools, gives you the knowledge. So there's no difference between me and you. Your focus has to be constantly on Hashem. Nothing else. Of course, your spiritual growth, your financial gains, your business, your loved ones, your relationships. But everything is under the title, what does Hashem want from me? So if Hashem is not number one, then there's already a problem in my life. So going back to the fact that we all have the common denominator that I want to focus on Hashem and I want to constantly spiritually grow, then that's where Hashem is going to throw distractions into my life, and in many of the situations bring a person into my life that makes me look this big. Now again, I know a lot of people don't have the jealousy in them at all, but nevertheless, when it comes to your personal matters, there is going to be that one person that arouses this jealousy. If jealousy is your weakness, then for sure you need to pay attention. But you have to understand that Hashem is going to test you not with basic things. He's going to test you where it's really, 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 really sensitive. And then there's going to be this jealousy towards another person. Now comes the Torah and tells you when the jealousy is for something positive, let the jealousy bubble in you. Why? Kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah. The jealous of a scholar will make you wiser. The Midrash on this point says, if there wouldn't be jealousy in the world, people wouldn't be doing nothing. You would be just sitting all day long doing nothing. What causes you to do something is that you're seeing that person, now you want to be minimum in the same level of that person. The other people's success is your drive to start doing things. People come first to the shul and they pray in a very focused way. You say, I don't want to be left behind. Everybody in the conversation is talking words of Torah, throwing all sorts of sources. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be the ignorant one standing there. You also want to have something to say. Or whatever it is in your life, you need to focus in your life where you feel that another person is inferior. But to remember that when I see somebody that is better than me in good things, not that he's a better cheater than me, or he's a better thief than me, talking about that that individual is achieving what I set to myself to achieve in a positive way, then the jealousy needs to bubble. Why? Because that will inspire me to do much better. When I look at another person, I say, I want to be like this. I want to be great like that, successful like this. I want to have this pride. And another unbelievable message that it brings, this entire story, Rachel is teaching us something very, very powerful. Rachel is teaching us that you have to live your life to the maximum. Not to settle to, okay, I did enough. That entire story is to bring you to a place that I'm here in this world for 60, 70, 80 years. The maximum I need to scrape. Not to come and say, okay, I took 60%. If you feel you're taking less than 99% from this world, then that's a problem. And that's most people. Their day is wasted on nonsense. Hours are wasted on nonsense. The Yetzer Hara knows to put a smartphone in your hand and you go like this, hypnotically. The news, the situation around you puts you in a place of don't want to do anything. The sad reality is that most people don't take advantage of this place. Just the other day, my wife needed to do something. She added, oh, by the way, I'm doing this and that, which was a very big burden. I told her why. And needless to say, a big inconvenience to others. When I asked her, why are you doing that? She was like, I need the extra mitzvah. That's what she says. I need the extra mitzvah. I'm already going from point A to point B. I'm already doing this whole thing. I know to do this task is a headache, inconvenience, not convenient, whatever it is. But I need the extra mitzvah on the way. I need the extra merit. And that mitzvah will give me that little extra merit. That's the right way of thinking. I'm already here. Take with you a few passengers. Most people, they don't take advantage of this world. They don't take advantage of their opportunities. What you have today, you might not have tomorrow available for you. And most people are on a conveyor belt, walking in the same place, not growing, not achieving anything, no goals whatsoever, no aspirations, walking tired on a treadmill, just trying to keep your tongue inside. So Hashem will put these individuals in your life by saying, look, a little bit of effort, look at the success. A little bit of hard work, look at the success. There's some individual that we know, you probably might even know him, that needed to go through a lot of hard work. He needed to put a lot of effort. But eventually, he got exactly what he wanted. He was old of age and single, couldn't find his other half for many, many years. And all the advice that he got from me and many other rabbis is get your act together, get your life together. You think a wife would want you? You think a wife is looking for a bum? You're not 22, you're in your late 40s. You need to shape up. You need to shape up spiritually. Doesn't matter. He took himself extremely serious in regards to coming and praying every day and learning. And it was a big challenge. But nevertheless, after he did his entire transformation, he met a wonderful wife, they have a child. Okay? So the point we want to take from this unbelievable story is that Rachel doesn't give, she gives in for Leah to come in. But she doesn't give up. Hashem gives us every day, and we need to fight for the maximum. Every day that Hashem gives you, and you wake up in the morning and you say, Modeh Ani, it's for you to do the maximum. What is the maximum I can do today? Not the minimum just to get by. Hashem is not expecting, or He doesn't want you just to do the minimum to get by. You have a day that you just got by, that's not a successful day. When you wake up in the morning, it's like, how can I get the maximum out of this day? That's what Rachel is telling us. Rachel is telling us, I'm willing to give in, but not to give up. So you have to understand that every moment in this life is important. I'm telling you already, most people don't take advantage of their time. They don't take advantage of the situation that Hashem is putting around them. They're just going through life and not taking advantage of everything. Because Hashem gives you a lot of opportunities that today you can just grab, tomorrow you won't have them. So Rachel is coming to tell us life is about grabbing opportunities. Every moment Hashem gives you an opportunity. You can give in a situation. That's very noble, but you never, ever, ever give up. So really the message behind the fact that the Torah is trying to tell me that Rachel was jealous, Rachel was not jealous of her sister. She just looked how Leah is diligent in her service to Hashem, in growing a family, and raising a family, and being an amazing wife. And exactly like Rashi says, she was jealous of her good actions. She wanted to be good like her sister. Now, can you imagine when you have somebody next to you that is like a star, successful in everything, and at the Shabbat table, the father says, wow, look how successful so-and-so, and you're like in the shadow? There's always going to be this situation. Doesn't matter who you are, there's always going to be somebody that's better than you. And Hashem is going to make sure that you see that that person is better than you. That jealousy that you have in you has to be used for a very positive way. It has to inspire you to become just as good as that person. It needs to inspire you to, even if you're not going to ever be good as that person, but it needs to inspire you to be good, better than what you are now, to grow to the next level. Not to look back, not to pass another day and another day and another day. Hashem is showing us how the days are going like that. It's not that it's me or you. Everybody feels that. You do Havdalah before the smell of the Besamim is evaporating. It's already Thursday. You're all experiencing it. It's not that I'm the only crazy one. Why? Hashem is telling you, I'm giving you so much opportunities. You're not grabbing them strong with your hand. So many mitzvot are passing in front of your eyes and you're just too tired. Or you're too busy. Or you're now occupied with other junk. Rachel is coming and telling you, look at the ones who are on the fast lane. That are grabbing. I told you once, life is like this video game, Subway Surf. That this video game, for the ones of you who are lucky and don't have a smartphone and don't know what it means, it's a boy, I'm sure there's different versions of it, and he's running on subway tracks and he has to jump. Somebody's running after him, of course, the Yetzer Hara, and he has to jump off the train carts and off. But the point of the game is to get a lot of coins. There's a lot of coins on the way, and you go from one lane to the other and you grab a lot of coins. And every now and then there's some big present and you fly faster, stronger, get more points. That's life. You're running on some track, you go left and right, and you need to just grab coins all day long. All these mitzvot, all these opportunities. Rachel comes and tells you, look at the ones who are flying on the fast lane and get inspired. So this wonderful, powerful message that the Torah is coming and telling me between the words is that the jealousy, prayer, the battle, the war, the argument, it's only to get the maximum out of you.